In my previous class, I was attending one of the patterns of genetic disorders in human, namely gene disorders. Now, gene disorders, also called Mendelian disorders. Now, in gene disorders, last time I gave a list of disorders in human. I said here, hemophilia, color blindness, phenylketonuria, and one more here is alkaptonuria. Now, I said earlier, alkaptonuria, commonly called black urine disease. Common name for alkaptonuria is black urine disease. Now, this alkaptonuria or black urine disease is also a gene disorder. Now, this is caused due to an autosome linked recessive gene in homozygous condition. Now, a recessive allele, a recessive gene present on autosome, and this recessive gene in homozygous condition causes this disorder, alkaptonuria or black urine disease. Now, a patient or an individual suffering with this disease, patient excretes a substance called alkapton. This is also called homogentisic acid. Alkapton or homogentisic acid. Individual suffering with this disease excretes this compound, alkapton, in the urine. Excrete this alkapton in the urine. And this alkapton spontaneously combines with oxygen and forms a black pigment. And this black pigment is responsible for black urine. So, person suffering with this disease or disorder discharges urine which is black in color. Now, why the urine is black here? This is because the person excretes this compound alkapton, and this compound alkapton spontaneously reacts with oxygen, forming a black pigment, and this black pigment gives a black color to the urine. Whereas in normal individuals, normal persons, Now these normal persons who are homozygous or heterozygous for dominant gene. Now the recessive gene in homozygous condition will cause this disorder. But normal persons who are homozygous or heterozygous for the dominant gene, these individuals will produce an enzyme. And this enzyme is called all-captain oxidase. Now this all-captain oxidase is being produced by this dominant gene. So as a result of this enzyme, all-captain oxidase, this this compound will break into carbon dioxide and water. Hence, the urine produced by these normal persons will not be black in color. But the individuals suffering with this particular disease, they do not produce this enzyme. So, all-captain oxidase is the enzyme that is not being produced in these individuals because they are homozygous for the recessive allele. So, in the absence of the dominant gene, when the recessive allele is present in the homozygous condition, these persons, they fail to produce this enzyme. So, in the absence of this enzyme, the all-captain that is produced, it will be excreted in the urine, and that all-captain spontaneously reacts with oxygen, forming a black pigment, and that is responsible for black urine discharge by this individual. So this is another gene disorder in human. Now one more gene disorder is sickle cell anemia. Now sickle cell anemia, it is a genetic or hereditary blood disease. This is a blood disease, and this blood disease, it is inherited from generation to the generation. Now this disease, sickle cell anemia, it was believed earlier that it is caused by an autosome linked recessive gene in homozygous condition. But this has been little bit changed later. Now here, the gene for sickle cell anemia and the gene for normal condition, they don't have dominant and recessive relationship as it was believed once. But these two alleles, they are co-dominant. Both are equally dominant. Now this disease, sickle cell anemia, this is due to the production of an abnormal hemoglobin. Now this is called hemoglobin S. So hemoglobin S. What is this hemoglobin S? Now hemoglobin S, it is an abnormal hemoglobin, and this is responsible for sickle cell anemia. Now the hemoglobin that is present, in normal individuals is called hemoglobin A. So hemoglobin S, it is an abnormal hemoglobin found in human suffering with sickle cell anemia, and this is the normal hemoglobin, that is hemoglobin A. Now what is the difference between hemoglobin S and hemoglobin A? What is the difference between this abnormal hemoglobin and the normal hemoglobin? Now hemoglobin, as you remember, it is an iron containing red colored respiratory pigment present in the red blood corpuscles of all vertebrate animals. Hence the blood of vertebrates is red in color. So the characteristic red color among vertebrates, it is because of this red colored iron containing respiratory pigment present in the red cells, and this is the hemoglobin. Now hemoglobin, it is a conjugated protein. It is made of heme and globin. Heme and globin together form hemoglobin. Now this hemoglobin, each molecule of hemoglobin, it has 4 heme part and 4 globin. Now globin is a protein chain, and this globin part of hemoglobin, it has 4 polypeptide chains. So each hemoglobin molecule, it has 4 heme part and 4 polypeptide chain, 4 globin chain. Now out of these 4 polypeptide chains or globin chains, 2 are alpha globin chains. 2 are alpha chain, and the other 2 are beta globin chains. In brief, each molecule of hemoglobin, it has 4 polypeptide chains. 2 are alpha chain and 2 are beta chain. The alpha chain is made of 141 amino acids, whereas beta chain is made of 146 amino acids. Now each beta chain at the 6th place, it has an amino acid called glutamic acid. Now when glutamic acid, an amino acid, is present at the 6th place in beta chain of the hemoglobin, then it is a normal hemoglobin, that is hemoglobin A. Hemoglobin A or HbA or hemoglobin A, this has in beta chain at the 6th place, there is an amino acid called glutamic acid. Now, in place of glutamic acid, if glutamic acid is replaced by another amino acid called valine, so if in place of glutamic acid, if there is a valine, then the hemoglobin will not be a normal hemoglobin, but the hemoglobin is abnormal hemoglobin, or this is what is called hemoglobin S. So there is only one amino acid difference. So there it is glutamic acid and here it is valine. And glutamic acid, it is GAG and valine is GUG. The codons on the mRNA, if it is GAG, this is glutamic acid, and if it is GUG, then it is valine. So here there is only one nitrogen base change, and hence sickle cell anemia is an example for, this is an example for point mutation. So in the previous section, while attending about the details of mutation, I said most of the gene mutations involve change in single nucleotide base, and hence the gene mutations are commonly called point mutation. So a best example for point mutation is sickle cell anemia. Now in this sickle cell anemia, the hemoglobin is an abnormal hemoglobin, and this abnormal hemoglobin, it has a difference with the normal hemoglobin present in normal individuals. So in the case of normal individuals, the normal hemoglobin present there, called hemoglobin A, it has in the beta chain at the 6th place the amino acid glutamic acid. And due to point mutation, if glutamic acid is replaced by another amino acid, namely valine, then the hemoglobin will not remain same, but hemoglobin changes into what is called abnormal hemoglobin, that is hemoglobin S. And because of this abnormal hemoglobin, hemoglobin S, now here, this abnormal hemoglobin, that is hemoglobin S, present in the red blood corpuscles of persons suffering with sickle cell anemia, and because of this abnormal hemoglobin, the RBC in persons suffering with sickle cell anemia, the RBC become sickle shaped. This is the sickle form, sickle shape of the RBC. So usually the RBC will be circular or disc shaped, biconcave. So this is circular disc shaped biconcave RBC in normal human beings, and this carries the normal hemoglobin, hemoglobin A. But when the hemoglobin A, instead of that, if the abnormal hemoglobin, that is hemoglobin S, is present in the RBC, then the RBC with the hemoglobin S, abnormal hemoglobin, the RBC instead of being circular or disc shaped, it becomes sickle shaped, and it also becomes rigid. It also becomes rigid due to abnormal hemoglobin under low oxygen condition. So under low oxygen, when the oxygen concentration is low, so under low oxygen condition, when the oxygen amount is less, so in such conditions, the person suffering with sickle cell anemia, their RBC become sickle shaped and rigid. And because of this sickle shape and inflexibility, the RBC becomes rigid, not flexible. And because of this form and rigidity or inflexibility, in this person suffering with sickle cell anemia, the RBC cannot easily flow. RBC cannot easily pass through narrow capillaries. So when the RBCs, which are sickle shaped and rigid, non-flexible, when they pass through narrow capillaries in the body, they get degenerated, that is, they break, and apart from that, they have a tendency to clot. So as a result here, the person with this type of hemoglobin suffer with anemia as well as poor circulation. So circulation becomes poor. Blood circulation is not efficient, but the blood circulation becomes poor, and in addition, the red blood corpuscles, which are being rigid, they have the tendency to degenerate, that is, they break and they have a tendency to clot. So as a result of these disasters, these demerits related with the red blood corpuscles of a person suffering with sickle cell anemia, they normally succumb, they normally die in their early life. So death occurs in their early life because of anemia and poor circulation of blood. So when blood circulation becomes poor, the tissues will suffer with dearth of oxygen. Oxygen supply to the tissues will be affected, and there will be anemia as well. So that becomes fatal. So as a result of which, the persons normally, they die in their early life. So this is what the disaster, severity found in the case of persons suffering with sickle cell anemia. Now here, formation of hemoglobin, whether it is hemoglobin A, normal hemoglobin, or sickle cell hemoglobin or abnormal hemoglobin, hemoglobin S, this is controlled by a pair of genes. Now these genes, they are denoted as HbA. This is the gene that is responsible for normal hemoglobin. So normal hemoglobin formation is controlled by this gene HbA. Now HbS, this produces abnormal hemoglobin that is responsible for sickle cell anemia. Now these two form a pair of alleles. Now these two are two different forms of the same gene, located at the same gene locus on the homologous chromosomes, and hence these two form a pair of alleles. Now earlier it was believed that this HbS, it is recessive to HbA. So this was believed to be dominant, and this was recessive. But now it is being known that these two do not show dominant and recessive relationship. They don't have dominant and recessive relation, but these two, they form a pair of alleles which are codominant. They are codominant. That means both are equally dominant, because persons with heterozygous genotype, persons having both the alleles, they produce both the type of hemoglobin. They carry normal hemoglobin as well as abnormal hemoglobin. Both the types of hemoglobin are being produced by the individuals which are heterozygous to these two alleles. So in a heterozygous individual, it is not the normal hemoglobin that alone is produced, but along with the normal hemoglobin, even abnormal hemoglobin is also being produced. Hence, the two alleles which are responsible for formation of hemoglobin in human, they don't have, as once believed, dominant and recessiveness, but both are equally dominant. Both are co-dominant. Now in this case, now this genotype, HbA and HbA, so persons are normal. They have normal hemoglobin. HbS and HbS. Again here homozygous for this allele, they suffer with sickle cell anemia. They produce only abnormal hemoglobin, and as a result of this abnormal hemoglobin under low oxygen condition, the RBC becomes sickle shaped and rigid, cannot pass through easily the narrow capillaries, and most of the RBC, they rupture and cause anemia. So that is sickle cell anemia. Now persons with heterozygous genotype HbA and HbS, persons with this genotype HbA and HbS, so heterozygous individual for these two alleles. Now these individuals, see, they produce, these individuals are often called sickle cell trait persons. Now they are the carriers for sickle cell hemoglobin, abnormal hemoglobin they carry. So here persons with this particular genotype, see, they have the allele for abnormal hemoglobin as well as the allele for normal hemoglobin. So therefore these heterozygous individuals, they produce both the type of hemoglobin, normal hemoglobin as well as abnormal hemoglobin, and hence they are the carriers. They carry the allele for sickle cell anemia, and they are often called sickle cell trait individuals or persons. Now the persons with this genotype, they show resistance towards malarial infection. Now you know malarial parasite. Now this malarial parasite, it enters into the red blood corpuscles and multiplies by the rupture of the red blood corpuscles. Now the malarial parasite cannot survive in an RBC which is sickle form, which is distorted form. So because here the persons have both normal and abnormal hemoglobin and some of the red blood corpuscles which are sickle shaped because of this abnormal hemoglobin, in such RBC, the malarial parasite cannot survive. So as a result, the persons with heterozygous genotype, they show resistance against malaria. Hence, persons with sickle cell trait or persons with heterozygous genotype, they have a better survival value in those places where malaria is endemic. Means malaria which appears repeatedly in certain places, in certain regions. So those regions are said to be endemic to malaria. So in regions where malaria is endemic, the heterozygous individuals will have a better survival value. Now when two carrier persons marry, so two carrier persons, two sickle cell trait persons, now two persons here, now here two persons both are carriers. When they marry, then how this sickle cell anemic trait, which is a genetic disorder or a gene disorder, how this is going to be inherited? What will be the pattern of the children they have? Now here, when they marry, these two will come together, that is HBA, HBA. So here it will be a normal child. So child will be normal. Now when these two HBA and HBS, then it will be a carrier child. This will be a carrier child. Similarly, when these two also a carrier child. Now when these two gametes fertilize, HBS and HBS, so this child will suffer with sickle cell anemia and dies in early part of the life. So here among the children, the proportion will be, the ratio will be 1 normal is to 2 carrier. 1:2. 1/4 will be normal, 2/4 will be carriers or heterozygous, but 1/4 will be suffering with sickle cell anemia. Now this is another gene disorder in human called sickle cell anemia. Now one more example for gene disorder in human is thalassemia. Now thalassemia, like sickle cell anemia, this is also a blood disease in human. But this blood disease, thalassemia, this is caused due to autosome-linked recessive gene in homozygous condition. Now in this disease, thalassemia, there occurs reduced synthesis of either alpha chain or beta chain of the hemoglobin. A person suffering with thalassemia show reduced synthesis of either alpha chain or the beta chain. Hence, thalassemia is described as 1 alpha thalassemia, another alpha thalassemia and beta thalassemia. Now in alpha thalassemia, there will be reduced synthesis of alpha chain. So alpha chain synthesis will be reduced, decreased. So when alpha chain production gets reduced, this is called alpha thalassemia. Now when a beta chain production is reduced, then it is called beta thalassemia. Now here beta thalassemia, it was first described by, this was first described by Cooley, and hence this beta thalassemia is also called Cooley's anemia, or this is also called thalassemia major. Thalassemia major. Now in this blood disease, thalassemia, the red blood corpuscles which are produced in the bone marrow. So the premature red blood corpuscles produced in the bone marrow, they get damaged. And as a result of destruction of large number of the premature red blood corpuscles in the bone marrow, the individual will suffer with anemia. And this severe form of anemia, this is called thalassemia. Now here, both are blood diseases. Sickle cell anemia and thalassemia, both are blood diseases in human. But there is a difference between these two. Now here, thalassemia, it is no doubt a blood disease, but this is a blood disease of quantitative problem, whereas sickle cell anemia, also a blood disease in human, but this is a disease of qualitative problem. Now this is a blood disease of quantitative problem, and this is a blood disease of qualitative problem. Now this is a blood disease of qualitative problem because it is the quality of the hemoglobin that makes the individual either to become normal or suffer with sickle cell anemia. If the hemoglobin is normal, then the person will be normal. And if the hemoglobin is abnormal, then the person will suffer with this blood disease called sickle cell anemia. Hence, sickle cell anemia, it is a blood disease of qualitative in nature. It has a qualitative problem. Quality of the hemoglobin that will make a person either to become normal or suffer with sickle cell anemia. But in the case of thalassemia, it is not the quality, but it is the quantity. That is the amount of the alpha chain and beta chain that are going to be produced. So that will make the individual to suffer with this type of blood disease in human called thalassemia. So thalassemia is a quantitative problem where it is concerned with reduction in the synthesis of either alpha chain or beta chain. Now coming to the genetic aspect of thalassemia, as far as the thalassemia is concerned, the alpha thalassemia this is caused, alpha thalassemia is caused due to, this is caused due to two closely linked genes on chromosome 16 in both the parents. Now here, this alpha thalassemia, it is controlled by two closely linked genes on chromosome 16 in both the parents. Now say these are the two closed genes, HBA1, HBA2. Now these are the two closely linked genes carried on chromosome 16. Now here, these two are closely linked genes. Both are present on the chromosome 16 in both the parents. So an individual will get these two genes from one parent and a similar set of two such genes from the other parent. So this will be the genotype of an individual who receives from each parent two closely linked genes on chromosome 16. Now these are the 4 genes. Now here, when they are present, the alpha chain is synthesized at the normal rate. Now when these genes, when they mutate and when they become recessive, then the production of alpha chain suffers and production of alpha chain will be reduced, becomes less. Now here, more the number of genes mutate. Out of these 4, how many will mutate and how many become recessive? Proportionate to that, there will be low synthesis of alpha chain. More the number of genes mutate, less will be the production of alpha chain. If all the 4 get mutated and converted into recessive form, then the alpha chain will be reduced far less. So as a result here, alpha chain, their number will be less and beta chain number will be more. And in that case, the person will suffer with this type of blood disease called alpha thalassemia. Now in the case of beta thalassemia, beta thalassemia caused by a reduced synthesis of beta chain of hemoglobin. Now this beta thalassemia is controlled by, a single gene, HBB, carried on chromosome 11 in each parent. So in each parent on chromosome 11 is present this single gene, and this controls beta thalassemia. Now a person will receive one gene from one parent and similar gene from the another parent, then the individual will get the genotype. This is the genotype, and when they have this particular genotype, they will be normal. They will be normal because they are dominant gene. But when one or both of them, when they become recessive, so when they change and become recessive, then the person will have less production of beta chain. So here, when both the genes mutate and become recessive, then there will be less production of beta chain of the hemoglobin. Now, when less production of beta chain takes place, then this is beta thalassemia. Now, this beta thalassemia, I told you, this is also called thalassemia major, because a person suffering with beta thalassemia will suffer with a severe form of anemia. Now here, a patient suffering with beta thalassemia will produce less of beta chain. So there will be less of beta chain, and as a result, accumulation of alpha chain. So beta chain becomes less and alpha chain becomes more. So as a result of less beta chain and accumulation of alpha chain, this will damage the premature red blood corpuscles in the bone marrow. So accumulation of alpha chain and less synthesis, less production of beta chain will damage the premature red blood corpuscles in the bone marrow, and that results in a severe form of anemia, and that is called thalassemia major. Now, persons with heterozygous genotype, one dominant and one recessive. So, persons with heterozygous genotype here, with regard to the beta thalassemia, when both of them are recessive, there will be less production of beta chain and accumulation of alpha chain, and this will damage the beta cells that are being produced in the red bone marrow. The premature red blood corpuscles get destroyed, damaged, resulting in thalassemia major. But the persons with heterozygous genotype, so one dominant and one recessive, so such individuals here for beta thalassemia, they are heterozygous individuals, and the heterozygous individuals are also, they are not normal. But they do suffer with anemia, but the anemia that they suffer here, the persons with heterozygous genotype will not be normal, but they too will suffer with, anemia with low severity. So less severe form of anemia the persons will suffer, and that is what is called thalassemia minor, thalassemia major and thalassemia minor. Thalassemia major. So thalassemia major, a severe form of anemia. This is due to these two genes in homozygous recessive condition. So when both the genes are in recessive form, then they suffer with a severe form of anemia, and this is called thalassemia major. But when the persons are heterozygous, one dominant and another recessive, even then heterozygous individuals or persons, they will not be normal. They too suffer with anemia, but with low severity, and that type of anemia is called anemia minor. So that is an account on thalassemia. So next time when we meet, let me attend another type of human genetic disorders, that is chromosomal disorders. So hitherto, whatever I said, that is one category of genetic diseases or genetic disorders in human called gene disorders or Mendelian disorders. Now, such disorders are due to change in the gene. Now, another category of genetic disorders or genetic diseases in human, they are caused due to changes in the chromosome. So, such disorders, such genetic disorders are called chromosomal disorders. So, let me have an account on chromosomal disorders on the next occasion.